Okay, well, I think we'll get going and some people may join on, but thanks for those of you that are, welcome everybody to the meeting about the, let's see, I've called it several different things, but essentially the Byron Richmond Woodroffe detour intersection meeting. And a bit of the background behind this was that this happened kind of in the middle of the summer, and I think caught a lot of us kind of off guard. And I think there was some major flurry on Facebook, and people quite worried a bit about what was happening and not understanding the driving, and people being concerned out of safety, which is all the great reasons to be concerned out of safety. Anyhow, the counselor, Teresa Kavanagh, and the staff from Stage 2 office, Diana and Rosanna, who we'll introduce in a few minutes. They were very responsive, and we actually went on a little tour on the 23rd of July, and quickly we were able to sort out some things that needed to happen immediately. And then we also talked about having this meeting to get into to ask some questions and get into any kind of deeper concerns that people were worried about. So that's why we're here today. And I guess it was David and David, I should introduce I should introduce myself. I'm the president of the Wood Park Community Association. I'm Sue Milburn Hopwood, and I'm with David Levesque, who is the vice president, and he also runs all of the Zoom behind all of this. And we have a couple of other board members here as well. So let's pass this over to Teresa, and she'll make a few other introductory remarks, and then we can get right into the presentation and the questions and answers.
Thanks, Sue. I appreciate everyone spending a lovely summer evening with us on Zoom. I appreciate your time, and you obviously care a great deal about your community. I'm just going to read the land acknowledgement that Ottawa is built on unceded Anishinaabe Algonquin territory. The peoples of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation have lived on this territory for millennia. Their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. The City of Ottawa honors the peoples and the land of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation. The City of Ottawa honors all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people and their valuable past and present contributions to this land. Thank you. So I have the pleasure of introducing the Stage 2 team. Many of you who've made inquiries will probably be familiar with their names, and they're the ones that we go to get answers. We have Rosanna Tier, and we have Di Ashworth. And so I will pass it on to them, who will be dealing with the questions that you have put forward. And I recognize that people have been through a lot of changes in the last few years, and we're trying our best to make it as non-problematic as possible, but people we rely on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We're going to get the presentation going here. Just a few housekeeping things before we get started. To help facilitate getting all the questions out, we do ask that the participants in this meeting do make use of the chat functions to enter their questions as we go. And then when we get to the end, we can start to go through it. And that way, people see that their questions already been asked. It's only in there once. And it also gives us a record of the questions that are asked, so that in the event we're not able to answer the questions today, we can take it away from this meeting and provide a response back to Sue after this meeting to share. Di, will you be taking it off, or do you want me to start running through things?
I will let you start running through things, and I will bring up the slides as they come.
Wonderful. Well, as everybody mentioned, we're calling this our Wood Park community meeting, and the topic for today will be going over the recent Byron Linear Park and Richmond Road revitalization detour that we have put in place last month, and we'll be answering some questions that have been come in. We have been getting quite a few of the same questions, so we figured this way, holding a community meeting, we can provide the response, and then everybody gets a chance to hear the feedback and either ask new questions or ask for follow-up. So today on our agenda, we have a map that we're going to show just so that we can keep coming back to it if needed, if people want to talk about a specific area, and that way it will help us hone into exactly what everybody's talking about, and just get everybody familiar with what we're dealing with. Next, we have some community traffic management Q&As that some came through from our site walk last month, and then others that came through email at the invite for this meeting. After that, we will provide you with some resources, and then at the end, we will take some feedback and answer any questions. So what you see here is a map of the circulation within the Wood Park area. So between
Sorry, Rosanna. Sorry to interrupt, but I don't think it's been shared properly yet.
Oh, are you not seeing it?
Screen.
I see it.
Okay, then it's a me problem. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Is there anybody else not seeing a map in front of them? Okay. So this map shows starting in the west, just west of 1025 Richmond, and it goes until the intersection of Woodroffe. So the way in which the detour happens, it goes when you're coming from the west going east, you start on Richmond, but then you detour south to Byron, and then you have the ability to continue on to Woodroffe. Once you get to Woodroffe, you have a couple decision points. You can either continue straight or you can make a left or right. If you make the left, you can either go up into Wood Park North, or you can come back west to visit the businesses along Richmond Road in a one-directional access. So the reason why we had to limit the road in front of these businesses, so when I say businesses, I mean like Honda, Tim Hortons, Tops Wash, and the apartment building and Tim Hortons, is that area specifically is where we need to actually get at to replace the utilities. So when we dug up that big hole in Byron Linear Park, we did all the adjustments we needed there. But with traffic being two direction on Richmond, we weren't able to do that part. So now it's kind of like musical chairs. Now that we're out of the park, we need to do what's under the road in Richmond in order to complete the utilities. So with that, we are pushing everybody onto Byron. Richmond is a major arterial, so we do recognize there is a fair bit more traffic that needs to be accommodated than your regular local street construction. So we did maintain 2 lanes of traffic on Byron, but in order to facilitate access and to reduce the impact to the businesses, we did have to provide a one-directional access to the businesses. So I see a question. I'll just answer this while we're still there. The question is there no access to the parkway from the turn on Woodroffe? Yes. So when you travel, if you're heading on Byron going east, you can turn left onto Woodroffe and continue north to get onto the parkway. And then conversely from the parkway, you are still able to come down through there and connect to Woodroffe. And then at that point, you can either turn right to visit the businesses in the one-directional Richmond Road, or you can continue down to the new signalized intersection of Byron and either go left or right at Byron. So although we do have it listed as local traffic only, we do highly encourage people to who are not in the area to try to minimize that usage, but we do realize that we consider local traffic, people coming to the businesses, even though they don't live locally, but they are coming to a local business. That's considered local traffic. People who have to get back and forth from work. What we're trying to minimize is we're trying to minimize the people who have absolutely no business in this neighborhood using it as a cut through to get around. There are other locations such as Carling and Island Parkway to get around for those, but we don't want to minimize or deter people from coming to businesses such as Honda, Tim Hortons, Top Wash, or sorry, I said Tim Hortons, but so, and conversely, the businesses on the other side of the road, east of Woodroffe. So we have to be mindful that Richmond Road and the Byron linear area and Wood Park is a unique location, that it is a very dense location, populous rise. We do have quite a few high rises, but we do have quite a few businesses. And we have to be very cognizant of minimizing traffic impact for residents, but at the same time, not taking away any kind of publicity or business for these local businesses, because as much as they are businesses, this is their home too. So if we don't support them in our detour, then we are also doing a disservice to them. So we have to be mindful on both fronts of not only the local businesses, but the local residents as well. Okay, Andrew said, as of this afternoon, there is a no going straight and a no right turn at the Richmond intersection heading north on Woodroffe to the Parkway. I will have to investigate that. I'm going out tomorrow, so I will take a look. I know there was some signage out there in error the other day, but I'll double check that. Again, when you guys see these kind of things, feel free to message the Stage 2 office. Di and I are always on these kind of things. There are hundreds of people working on this project right now and trying to direct. Sometimes we're not perfect. The guys working on site in the heat are not perfect, so sometimes some things do get misplaced. I also have seen a few signs walk off in my past history and all the construction projects I've ever worked on. So we do our best, but we can't fix things if we don't know anything about them. All right, so moving on from the map, what you see before you is some questions that we had come to us. So I will keep an eye. I do, like, if you guys see me looking this way, it's because I'm looking at the chat just to make sure I see anything come up, because I don't want to deviate too far from the conversation before moving on. So I'll take them one at a time and just see where this goes. So the first question was the current state of traffic flow. Is it settling down? From a Stage 2 perspective, we are saying yes. And how do we determine this? We have a couple ways of doing it. One is hearing from you fine folks. In the beginning, there's always that learning curve, and we see this all over the city for any kind of traffic. As soon as you change something, people end up going other places, either because they're using a program, GPS that is telling them to go a different way. I'm not going to name any. Or sometimes they just make a last minute decision themselves and getting far more lost than they expected because they don't know the neighborhood. Traffic's going slower because of the slower decision making opportunities for people to make. So it appears like there's a lot going on, but we have going from the implementation stage to today have seen quite a reduction in any kind of concerns coming from the community, to the point, I think, Di, you can correct me, we haven't actually had any in the last 2 weeks.
We've had a few questions. We've had no complaints about traffic management.
Yeah. So the other way in which we monitor this is the City of Ottawa Signals Department. If you're ever bored and you're out walking around, you look up, there are some dome cameras on the signals, and they are able to look around, I think they're almost 360 to monitor the intersection and the way in which it's working. And we're not seeing too much stress on the signalized intersection that would cause people frustrations to find another way to get around. It's being, the intersection is acting as it should, which allows people to, in a very easy way, keep on their path. So that's, from our point of view, how we see this is settling down. Now, I know there has been some concerns raised about when school starts up again. And we will be monitoring the activity around the school. We will be engaging with the school board as well to make sure that they're aware of the new situation so that they can prepare with their buses on where to park, how to get there. So they can communicate out through their means if they wish to the parents to give them the heads up. Otherwise, we also have this, having had this in place for a little while, the community is getting a little bit more familiar with it. So it's not a brand new situation on the first day of school. So it does come with a little bit of familiarity, and the fact that parents will be more aware that they will have to give themselves maybe a little bit more time for the first couple days to figure out how to get around the pedestrian detours for those who are walking. Again, I know, Counselor, you can probably vet with me that the city and the school boards always try to encourage parents not to drop their kids off at school, but rather to use either the bus system or I think when my younger daughter went, it was Park a Block program where they parked a little ways away and then walked to it to help reduce the traffic in and around the school. This is going to be so this is going to be especially important in the first few weeks of school while everybody gets used to a new routine. And again, our signals group will be monitoring the intersection during all this. And then at the same time, I have already proactively started requesting the our traffic team to start making sure that everything is cleaned up and the way it's supposed to be and ready for day one of school. No, there has not been any accidents. We have been reported. So this is the thing. Our office will not know of any accidents if two people decide to just go their separate ways after a fender bender. The city recognizes accidents that have either been reported or unless someone has emailed stage 2 directly. So to this date, we haven't heard of anything. The next question is, my concern is the speed of which cars are traveling. This has been an ongoing issue. Living directly in front of the construction, it's a daily challenge. Any chance there is a temporary speed bumps installed just to slow people down? So Chantal, I'm gonna ask maybe you clarify what road you live on. Because I believe Sue or Councillor Kavanaugh, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Wood Park neighborhood is a 30-kilometer-an-hour neighborhood. We reduced Ambleside down to 30K. The new detour is signs specifically with regulatory signs between 1020 and Cleary at 30 kilometers. And I have asked that the traffic team change the orange advisory 30-kilometer-an-hour boards between New Orchard and McEwen to be 30 regulatory so that it's enforceable. Okay, so you're on Byron. Okay, so again, it is a regulatory posted speed on Byron. Chantal, I'm gonna guess that you are between I call them the S curve, so where Richmond comes down and Woodroffe. Okay, so regardless of what section, they are all 30K regulatory. We cannot put speed bumps on Byron, the detour part of it, as OC Transpo travels down there, and their buses are not big fans of speed bumps, unfortunately. However, through the rest of your community, I know your community has been very active working with Councillor Kavanaugh on traffic calming issues. In the community itself, that is outside the scope of the stage 2 office to implement any kind of traffic calming, unless we directly detour people through the community. So again, there is one too, if it continues, Councillor Kavanaugh could put a request in with OPS to maybe patrol the area, but we have from our ability implemented the regulatory speed signs to make it enforceable.
We work closely, not just with the communities, but also the 2 schools in the neighborhood.
Okay. Jay Taylor, you mentioned an accident on CBC. Are you able to provide a link, or was it on TV?
I think that we're a small enough group that if people want to take off their mic and answer the question,
Sorry, I don't watch TV. It was on the radio and they said it was at Richmond and Woodroffe. So I heard it on the traffic report this evening. So
Okay, I will get
and
my team to look into it.
all I'd like to say is I go through that area pretty much every day, and I've just been waiting for an accident to happen. I'm sorry. And also the place where Andrew mentioned that the sign said don't go. I find that particular spot, like, it's a very long, it's not really an intersection, it's kind of like a passage, and there are cars in 2 directions up in addition to your own, and I'm just waiting for them to come at me because I can't really tell who's stopped or who's going from, I don't know what the light system is there. I'm not sure there is a light system at the north side at all. So I find it a bit frightening, actually.
Are you
And
speaking
I'm
as a
trying.
pedestrian?
Pardon?
Are you speaking as a pedestrian or a
No, I'm
driver?
not speaking as a car.
Okay,
I wouldn't want to be a pedestrian there personally. It's way too long to go across that. It's way too long. And there doesn't seem to be, I mean, I saw a man kind of guarding his wife as they were trying to go through and that was further down where there's a cut through to the businesses, but the cut throughs are pretty scary because cars can go in both directions there, and they just have to wait to make sure that there's nobody coming to go through. I just find it a bit, I mean, we're learning, but
Yep.
heaven forbid
And
somebody
it's
who's
going
not.
to take patience. This
Yeah,
is a very
of course.
complex detour. We advocate caution. Absolutely. It's a construction zone. I hate to say it, but it does look like a war zone because the whole place is dug up. The signage, and this is what I tell everybody, is that we can put a sign out for everybody, but there is actually a tipping point with signage. Once you get too much, it becomes too confusing. And then people are trying to pay attention to too many signs. And then that's when they stop paying attention to pedestrians, cyclists, and other vehicles. There's been multiple studies on that. I'm not going to get into it tonight, but that's where we're very hesitant on putting too much out. Our traffic team is constantly reviewing the area. We go on site. We've had many team site meetings where we review driver behavior, but at the same time, we are bound by the road regulations and the standards of which signage has to be put up. And the reason why traffic departments have to do that is so that there is consistency throughout the province, so that no matter where you drive in Ontario, everything is going to be the same. So when there's a whole guide, like it's a nice big thick book on traffic design, and it constantly changes based on research, and the latest version came out just a few years ago. And then on top of that, it's called the Ontario Traffic Manual. It deals a lot with pavement marking and signage and temporary conditions. So that's what the city of Ottawa is bound to start with, and we go from there. And then on top of that, we're also having to implement the directional signage for the businesses so that people know how to get around for that as well. So there's that added complexity of seeing signage in order to get around.
yeah, but let's let Rosanna get through these questions and answers, and then maybe we can
Okay.
go to some of the other issues or maybe the comments on that. So
Okay.
Rosanna.
Okay, so what has been done so far to address the concerns? So PVMS, so it stands for Portable Variable Message Signs. It's those big orange signs. They have 3 lines of text that rotate through 2 messages to provide communications. They're illuminated so that they're seen in the day. These will eventually be replaced with proper printed larger signs directing everybody where to go for the local businesses. And then we have currently in production some smaller pedestrian signs. I've asked that some indicator tags be put on the bottom of the pedestrian signs or something similar, so that when you're looking, okay, I need to go to Richmond East, but there's no crosswalk here. Oh, but there's a pedestrian detour sign. I know that this one is specifically, I follow these signs to get across so that I end up where I wanted to get. We did this at the Lincoln Fields when we kindly referred to as the J ramp. So when we removed the aerial pathway to the station and people had to come down the ramp and under the bridge, we did something similar because it was a bit of a funky detour to continue going eastbound or westbound on Carling, as well as getting to the high school or to QTN. So that is something else that we're looking at. We've implemented and or are going to implement a bit more line painting to help clear things up. Some of it is the line painting is lagging only because it's tied to a sign that we only recently put out. So one of the other questions when we were on site was, can we close Byron where it connects to the Richmond S-curve? So to be more clear, so where Richmond bows down and turns into Byron, there's that connection point to Byron between Allison and Ancaster. So we did take a look at that. And unfortunately, that is the only access for construction to access the station construction. So if we were to close that down, we would have to run construction vehicles through the community somehow. Regardless what street, there would be a street that would be required to allow our large construction vehicles to go down, which we know just from the history over my tenure, which is almost 4.5 years, isn't desired either. The other option would be to close off the top of each street where it connects to Byron. Again, that really doesn't benefit much, because if you had someone not from your neighborhood still come down this road and get to the end of it, say all the way down to Richardson, and are like, oh, there's barrels in my way. Trust me, I have seen it. These people will get out of their car and move the barrels before going backwards. So, and then at the other point is it really affects the residents more. When on site, we did notice that the station workers are parking on the north side of Byron, which is causing some natural traffic calming. So it's a very slow go trying to get down that section of Byron, which is a positive thing because it is having the desired effect of what everybody else has been asking for, but it's also getting the staff off of the side streets for parking. So again, it is something we could look at, but I don't think it would have the desired impact now that traffic has figured its way out to get away and around from that. So the next one, the request came on whether or not we could do no left or no right turns coming from Byron Richmond onto the side streets. And only continue to allow northbound traffic onto Byron and Richmond. I would say we could do it. The only problem is from experience, prohibition signage without some form of enforcement is not very effective. It's actually one of the lower compliance traffic signage out there. If someone sees a sign, they want to turn left, but it says not to turn left, they will still turn left if they want to. And when they find out that they can get away with it, they tend to do it more often. And this doesn't necessarily mean that it's someone from outside the community. It could mean someone that's in the community as well. Not going to go too far into detail, but there's a reason why there's big blocks at the end of Edgeworth. Flexi posts were brought forward as a request. This unfortunately is outside of the scope. Sorry. Flexi posts are those stakes that you see in the middle of the road that if you hit them with a car, they pop down back up. They help narrow the road and encourage a visual reduction in the width of the road. So it was asked if these could be put down Compton, Ancaster, and Allison. Unfortunately, that's outside of the stage 2 project as we are not actively diverting traffic down those. So on this question, I added the statement that we did add them on Ambleside, but that is because we are actively putting traffic onto Ambleside, and it's a much wider road because of the parking on either side. So it had a high rate of speeding on it. The other one on this one was closing Compton with barrels. We mentioned that based on our engagement with the funeral home, this is not a possibility to do a hard close. So barrels were asked about, but at the same time, barrels are still very easily to be pushed out of the way. And at the same time, we haven't really heard any more complaints about the usage of that street. It's one of those ones, if we put them in place, it would be also affecting the residents on that street. So the last question that we have was about the dashed lines eastbound on Byron before Woodroffe. So I know we've heard this a lot. I think a couple of people would admittedly say that they got confused on day one, that they thought that they should be in the straight line in order to go through, but in fact, that turned out to be the right turn to go south on Woodroffe. So when we started, we only had one set of guiding signs, like a straight through with the left and a right turn sign. We did add additional guidance signs. And this is another one of those ones where I know it looks funky, but it is in line with the guidelines and standards for doing lane designations and lane lines. Because when they did the modeling for the traffic at this intersection, eastbound right turns were the heaviest, most numerous vehicle count. So when you have multiple different directions, you always accommodate the highest usage. And in this case, it was the right turn. So what this lane to the left, being the through and the left, allows us to do is to get a couple cars out of the way to allow the right turners to keep going before we start to see a bit of a backup. Because obviously once you get to the Compton area, you start to still have the mix of the 3 directional drivers. So it's one of those ones, we looked at it and since we've added the extra signage and since we've been reviewing it, yeah, there's the odd person who's in the wrong lane that ends up waiting a light cycle to get over, but we're not seeing it as much. A lot of people do it once wrong the first time, maybe the second time, but we're not seeing huge delays because of it. So with that, I just want to take a minute to explain exactly what's going on under the section of Richmond that we've turned into a one-way street, just so some people can understand how the work sequence has to happen. So in the construction world, there is contractor liability. And when you just say fence off a site and all your workers are working in this site, you are responsible as the owner for everybody who's working in that site. However, on our road, as you can see, we have multiple different utilities. So like, let's say the white stuff, that's your sanitary, your storm, and your water, which is the blue. Those are city services. However, we have stuff like Enbridge, which could be your pink. You have your sanitary servers, which are going off to your personal residence. You have Bell, you have Rogers, you have a whole bunch of stuff in there. Each one of those are a different owner. So when one of those utilities has to get into the ground, whoever's working there has to hand over control, which means a lot of times, and I know some people get mad when they see this, One group comes, they dig up a hole and they fill it back up, and then we vacate. And then somebody comes up, digs the same hole, does something, fill it up, and vacates. It's not because things weren't planned properly. They were actually planned pretty well in order for that to happen. Is that it had to happen like that legally. So we are going to see some of that. Again, it's a bit of musical chairs because we have to find where all the utilities are. Richmond Road, being a very old street, has some abandoned stuff in it. And unfortunately, sometimes you come across it once you dig it up and you can't really tell from what you just uncovered whether or not it's still active or what we call live. So at that point, they have to do some investigation. And what they're doing now before we start off is trying to do a lot of the pre-investigation of the stuff that's coming out from the businesses and the apartment buildings that are in that stretch. That helps us to minimize conflict, but at the same time, as you can see in this drawing, everything's also layered. So everything has to go in at a certain way. For example, water always goes over sanitary so that if there's ever a sanitary leak, it doesn't leak into the water. It's very complicated. It's a lot of shifting around, playing in a very tight space. And at the same time, all of these are live. There's going to be small periods where we're going to send notices where there's going to be a temporary shutdown so that we can like flick the switch and switch it over to a temporary service or switch it to the new service. So we have to do all this in a manner that does not disrupt the residents or the businesses. And at that point with the businesses, Tim Hortons is food oriented. Further down the road where you have the Indian food and the Subway and a few other places, food businesses, they rely heavily on water. So we might have to look at doing some of those things at night. So again, it's very complicated. And every little bit of this section, all the way between New Orchard and Cleary, is all different. Just because of the different needs, the different grades, who's going where, whether Roger's going left, Hydro's going right, that kind of thing. So it is very complicated. We work very hard to put a plan together, but all I can say is God bless the person who ever comes up with an X-ray machine that could help us find what's underground before we dig. They will be a billionaire overnight. So with that being said, there are some resources for you. I know I probably just went into this very deep rambling of what we do for construction underground, but we do have other stuff that's related to the revitalizing Byron Linear Park and Richmond Road project. So we do have the link here. We do have a dedicated web page for it that you can go. It gives you again, more snippets about the utilities. It shows you the kind of things we're doing. We have a picture up there, a role plan of what's going to be put back. There's also a link that's the first one there that says learn more and get involved. There's a red button, which we're pointing at in yellow. Sorry, I don't know which way it is for you guys. Where you can click and it will bring up a page where you can subscribe. So many of you have probably done this for either New Orchard or Cleary or whatever other station, Lincoln Fields maybe, but now we have the option to do the Richmond Road Complete Streets project so that you will get specific notices specifically for this part of the project. So I really encourage you to do that so that you don't miss any information about overnight work, mini detours, impacts, that kind of thing. And last but not least, and I think this kind of answers one of the questions that I did see about messaging Councillor Kavanagh. As fabulous she is as a resource for this project, the stage 2 at ottawa.ca is what you need to email with your concerns and whatnot, questions, because as soon as we get it, we will look into it. We have a lot of the information. You're more than welcome to copy the counselor's office, but your fastest and most direct way to get information or to be heard in relation to our project is through this email. With that,
I would also ask that anyone contacting you and copying the counselor's office, copy the Wood Park Community Association so that we can be tracking your concerns.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation, Rosanna. And I think we've had some comments come in through the chat, so we'll carry on looking at the chat. But I think there's not too many people that we could maybe open the mics as well. I think we've heard quite a bit about kind of the north end of that Woodroffe Richmond intersection, and Rosanna is committed to going and looking at it and looking at the incorrect signs or whatever is there. So I think kind of we've largely dealt with that piece, but there probably are other concerns here. I think there is another question in the chat. Okay, Rosanna, do you want to read that and then
Which one are you referring to? The one from Andrew or the one from Joel?
from Joel, but
Okay, so this one's from Joel. My observation, northbound on Woodroffe at Byron, there is a left turn lane and a straight right lane at the intersection. Left turns used to go on to Richmond, but now it's intended for Byron, which is unexpected for drivers. There is only one lane between Byron and Richmond on Woodroffe. As a result, the left turning people are doing a surprise merge, the people going straight onto that one lane between Byron and Richmond. So hang on. I think I understand what you're saying. I'm getting some feedback.
Everyone who's
Jim, maybe if I could get you to mute your mic, I think. Okay, let me see. So if I'm traveling northbound on Woodroffe, you're saying that the confusion is happening because at Byron, they're now being able to turn left, but some people are getting stuck and trying to move north. So we can take a look at that. There might be lane designation signs that need to be put sooner. Again, I will have to review the situation on site.
so I went through that intersection today, and I think it's exactly as the way it's described here. You make this turn, but you think you're turning into the traffic going eastbound, and like you really think, like I was ready to almost jam on my brakes, which might have caused another problem because I thought I'd gone into the wrong section. So I don't know, like a pile, I don't know, something there that just kind of is, yes, that's the right thing. Maybe it's even an arrow on the pavement, but I think
I
that's
know we have asked, because the way in which, I don't have pictures of it right now, but there is a little bit of a painted median. We have asked to put a couple barrels there and perhaps a median sign that shows that you go to the one side of it. So I'll follow up with the traffic team on that one.
Okay, did Andrew's questions get answered? There was quite a bit here, Andrew. Have you had your questions answered?
Sorry, I know Andrew's questions were up there for a bit, so I don't know if what else I said was of any response.
I don't know that the hi, thank you very much for taking the time to do this. First of all, it is appreciated, and I know it's a very difficult process, and fully understand the sort of Jenga blocks of road work and utilities that you're trying to manage. No, I wouldn't say my questions were addressed. I think that it's a little bit confusing. I live on Ancaster. Ancaster and Compton are not used for construction equipment, or at least that not supposed to be. But even if they, unless my understanding is incorrect, but your comment was, look, we can't block them off because citizens wouldn't have access to their streets, and then also construction access. But neither of those are true. The whole purpose of this meeting is that people are concerned about more access to the neighborhood, not less. And so I don't know why we wouldn't just close those off. That's the way it's been as long as we've lived in the neighborhood now for 12 years. And it's the way it's going to be after the project's complete. So I don't know why those would be open. Everybody's expecting and accustomed to entering and exiting the neighborhood as we always have. With regards to the construction equipment, I understand your point around signage. People don't pay attention to signage, but you know, if you said construction and local access only, that is something. And I fail to accept the argument that doing nothing is the appropriate course of action because people won't listen. So I would say that we should be designing the construction access, and this is like not 6 months. This is like 2 or 3 years. I understand. Is that we're going to have this?
Nope. This configuration is barring any unforeseen circumstances that we've seen over the last couple of years. We're looking to move on from this within by fall of next year.
Okay, so it's a year. It's a material amount of time. Fair enough, but that's good to hear. It's not 2 to 3 years. But anyways, I'll stop talking. But I would simply say, like, closing off Compton and Ancaster, I think is what the majority of the neighborhood would like and appreciate, and is in fact what the intended design of the neighborhood is going to be. And then with respect to the access to the rest of the neighborhood, having signs that are clear, local access and construction access only, leads to the ability to enforcement later, right? To have a police officer standing out. But I will say, and again, respectfully, I understand this is a very difficult thing to manage, but many people have been submitting comments, complaints, formal systems, you know, for years. And, you know, honestly, it's like Teresa gets things done. That's what we've learned. And so going through the formal system, you know, it just doesn't seem to yield results, and you don't even understand if your comment has been registered by a human being. You know.
Okay. Well, I have been on this project for the last 4 years, and I've been working directly with Teresa Kavanaugh. So as soon as anything stage 2 has come through, she has sent it to my team, and we have actioned it when we have been able to do so.
Yeah.
My concern is that if it only goes to Councillor Kavanaugh's, there may be a delay before we get it. The stage 2 office email box is monitored by the whole comms team. So even if the Di, who is the Ward 7 specific comms team member, is gone, there's somebody else who's able to action that. And my profession, I have a background in project management as well as traffic transit. I used to actually work for OC Transpo years ago. I worked previously with a lot of the people who are doing the traffic planning in this area. So I do have that background to understand what needs to be done. At the same time, I do work directly with the stakeholders so that we ensure that everything's answered. We always try to commit to answering everything. If anything ever slips through, we will fully admit that. We do get a lot of emails in a day. But we do investigate. At the same time, some of the investigations are not timely just because of the amount of effort and investigation and digging that we have to do into the design drawings and all the different specialists that we have to consult before we can form an opinion and a response. So we do try to do that. On the Ancaster note, on the final design, the actual final design of Ancaster does allow a northbound right out only of your community that was implemented. So again, that was left for the community to continue access. I don't have the history on that because that is way early in the planning process, but the community wanted that direct access onto Richmond. Will it be fully abided by as a northbound right out only? I would bet you $5 not, but
just by way of correction, the way, you know, and again, I've been here, I obviously have no problem participating in these kinds of, you know, events. The way it was explained to us is that it was required for emergency egress, fire, ambulance, that kind of thing. I don't think that it was requested by the neighborhood, but I may, you know, there may be something I don't know or I didn't see. But nevertheless, that is not what's configured today. Compton and Ancaster have bi-directional traffic, left turns, right turns, in and out. And so that's different than what you've described, which is onto Byron with a right turn out only onto
Oh, no,
Richmond.
that's not there right now. That was what was requested.
I understand you understand that. What I'm saying is what has been reconfigured is different than the way it was and the way it's been. And there's no rational explanation as to why. There's no need for construction equipment and there's no demand from the community.
That's a decision the community and the councillor can make if they want to completely block off Ancaster. We can look at doing that.
Amazing.
That would
Thank you.
be, we left it because again, we didn't want to make the decision for the community. This again is more of a political group. However, when it comes to Compton, there is a need to maintain access there. The way in which the funeral home is set up is when they have a service, they go northbound, and we did construct them a little driveway to connect with some P gates into their circular. But what that will do is once we do close off the access, that driveway will be connected into the bend in the road. So they will have that driveway access in the future, but with the current configuration now, we would have to leave Compton's to Byron still somewhat connected.
Fair enough. And maybe I was speaking out of turn with regards to Compton. I don't live on that street. So yeah, I stand back on that one.
All right.
I think
Thank
Andrew
you.
raises some.
I just want to say thank you, Andrew. And just so you know the history, when stage 2 was starting up in the very beginning, I was fortunate enough to have people assigned to us for just this area. And Rosanna was one of them. So what we've been doing is every time we get things, we've been sending it to Rosanna. It used to be Damon was with her, and Di is now with us. That's what we do. And we send it off to them as soon as we can. We put in our own explanation. We've had to have weekly meetings on forever because there was just so much to catch up on. We're doing it again because it's back to being very busy again. It's kind of went into a pattern for a while, and now we've got new stuff happening again. So we talk a lot, but I appreciate when people send things directly to stage 2. That makes me happy because it's just one less step. We get like 50 emails a day, but it's and I like it being copied because yes, we want to know what's happening. And that's more productive than Facebook, I'll be honest, because that way we get it and we can do something about it.
The stage 2 office does not monitor Facebook. So if there's anything on there, a counselor sometimes pulls stuff for us and sends it to us, but it's not a very fluid means of providing a response.
Yeah, lots of changes still, and we'll be, keeping up on it.
We also,
Difficult.
sorry, Counselor. We also leave files open. So if I get 3 comments from one street about a directional concern, I hold that file open with traffic and I don't close it until there's been further assessment. So, sorry, you're on Ancaster?
Yes, I'm
Yeah,
on Ancaster.
there's definitely an open file for Ancaster. There's an open file for Compton, and I think I've closed Allison. So yours is still active, but you can send us a note, like just want more feedback, want to know where it stands now, like progress reports, and we can let you know how it's going. But you can formally request the closure now that it's been in play. People have driven through the area, patterns have been established. We aren't changing it for at least 12 months. Now is the time to work on that. So let's stay in touch.
Okay, thank you very much. You've introduced new information to me here. I didn't realize that, we could ask this, and, part of these kinds of, events are that now I at least understand that's not a faceless, bit bucket where emails go to die. It's very clear that
No.
everybody here is very interested in doing what's right and best for the community, and is evidence of the great relationship with our councillor. And Teresa, thank you. Like, your role is not to be the single point of triage for every, citizen event or interest that's there. I very much, and we all sincerely appreciate the work and effort that you invest, and everybody on the Stage 2 team as well. Thank you.
And Councillor
Thank
Kavanaugh
you.
can attest, I will show up to a site and guide a group of people around to be there and point at things and explain why certain things are like, because I know how hard it is to explain a traffic setup and a detour through these kind of platforms. So if that is ever, anybody is ever interested, that's something we can set up through the councillor's office. I put it on my vest. We go for a little tour. I can take you as far or as short as one as you want, specific point, whole stretch. I'm happy to do that. That's what I'm here for. But again, we just need to coordinate that. I unfortunately won't do it with less than 3 people, just for safety purposes, but always happy to coordinate a group.
No,
Okay.
they both have tons of experience, believe me.
This is my 6th complete street project. And I agree with Rosanna that one of the best things to do is a site tour. And I'm person number 2. So it only takes one resident that asks both of us, and we'll go together.
Okay,
With
so
that-
there's an offer there for if something wants to investigate something further, but let's let Rosanna take her tour tomorrow, maybe get back to us on what she discovers. We said this would go till 8. We have about 5 minutes left, but we can go a little bit longer than that. I want to see if there's anybody else that wants to make a comment, and I'm seeing that Larry has put his hand up, and maybe David also put his hand up. But Larry, do you want to make your comment?
Yeah, I'm a cyclist, and I find the detour really is quite dangerous and doesn't work for me. And the cars are always speeding and trying to pass me, and it's a very narrow lane and an uneven pavement along Richmond Road. I usually use Byron, so this is quite a shock to be forced into the hurly-burly, as it were. And I find it's not very easy as a cyclist to get back onto Byron when it opens up again, because there's often a chain and barrels obstructing that. So first of all, I guess my first request would be some signage to remind drivers that cyclists can be there in the middle of the road of this detour. Yeah. And because the pavement's so uneven, I can't really stay to the side. And also, I don't know what the speed limit on it is. It 30? Is it supposed to be 30? I don't see a lot of signage.
There is 30K signage out, and there is quite a bit of it. I did also request these share the single file, which when I was out last week, I did see an increase in those. If there is somewhere that's lacking, please let me know. Otherwise, we understand that construction zones are very hard to navigate as cyclists, as vehicles, even as pedestrians. We are very fortunate in this area that there are some additional side streets, such as going to Midway, Ancaster, Knightsbridge, Sherbourne, Redwood area to kind of jump right past it. I know it's a little bit further, but those are streets that are not obstructed by any kind of construction equipment or staging or signage. I know it's not the best answer because it's not the route that you specifically want to be on. However, it is a safer route, and that's
well, but at the same time, there's no reason why I couldn't be merging into Byron, for example, when I'm going east there. But they put up a whole bunch of barrels and have to squeeze me, then go on the sidewalk over a curb and to get back onto Byron. That seems totally unnecessary. And the same thing the other way. I figured out going west a better route just today on my way home, but it's a bit hairy coming from the west to the east because I immediately start off at Richmond Road, and instead of getting onto Byron, and I haven't been able to get through the chains there. But maybe I can go through the sidewalk there and get onto Byron there. But then I have the other problem getting across Woodroffe, because somebody thinks that I should have as many obstacles as I can to get around at Woodroffe. But anyways, just wanted to put that in for cyclists because I don't think it's very safe at the moment. Thank you.
And
Thanks, Larry.
again,
And
Counselor has brought that to our attention. We have put out those single files and unfortunately have no control over the jerks who like to honk their horns at people to get them to go faster. It's
Well,
unfortunate. Our
today
city
I
has
had
plagued by that.
I had two cars squeezed by me. One of them was immediately turning left, and he had to get by me. And then the other guy was, really squeezed right by me and at speed, big SUV. And when there are holes in the pavement, I don't have a lot of places to go. Anyways, okay, take care.
It's unfortunate. My favorite little story, and I wish it would come to real life, is I don't know how many people have ever watched the cult classic, The Fifth Element, with Bruce Willis. The opening scene, he's a taxi driver, and as soon as he does an infraction, a ticket spits out the front of his car. I would love that. But unfortunately, it's not the reality yet. So in my world of traffic design, I can design the perfect infrastructure, but as soon as someone chooses not to follow the rules because cars are not yet fully automated to obey every traffic rule, it's unfortunate, and we do come across some of these conflicts.
It just seems to be unreasonably narrow in a few points, like as soon as it widens out, I get it to the side and let the cars by, but it seems to be a long stretch where I have no choice. Okay.
So it's not a mandatory requirement, but I will still put the request in to see if maybe I can get some bike shares. I can't promise anything, but maybe it's something we can look at.
Okay.
I thank you for that, Larry. But in the meantime, I'm taking side streets and cutting through that way, or I'm taking the path. I just realized I can take the path, the old railway path, and connect down that way as well. Go right behind everything.
Yeah, that's pretty uneven these days, but okay.
Okay, are there some other people that would like to raise a question or make a comment?
I just have a really quick question. Hi, my name is Chantal. I just regarding, I live on Byron Avenue facing all the LRT construction in between Sherbourne and Lockhart, and it's busy a lot. I'm a runner, I walk, it's precarious for pedestrians whose cars just don't even stop. They just blow the stop signs. But for me, it's the construction vehicles on Sherbourne that are parking on in the bike lanes, or it's in a no parking zone, but they're parked there, and I don't know if they have special permits or not, but they park there, they're over the line, so they're blocking part of the path that drivers would drive, like, let's say, north onto Sherbourne towards Byron, and turn right to go onto Byron. And so they block that, and when I try to come out of my driveway to leave home, they block that. People are over the line, so it makes it very precarious to get out of my building on a good day. In the early morning, not so bad, but at rush hour, it's a little bit crazy daisical. So I was just wondering do they have special permission to park wherever they wish?
No, and I would be equally as angry as you. I, not gonna lie, vigilantism is my best weapon. So if you can snap a picture of their license plate or truck number and send it to me
No
at
problem.
Stage 2 at Ottawa, we can address it, because then we know the specific owner of the vehicles to go do it. The other option is, Councillor Kavanaugh, I'm going to throw it to you to ask bylaw to patrol more often. It was actually just in the news today. UPS got ticketed for parking in a bike lane, and if I could write tickets for these guys, I would do it myself.
Like to be able to write tickets. I would like to get the authority for tickets.
And at the same time, I know they don't always respond the fastest, but contacting 311 for them to engage by that as well. So
and I respect
what I have.
It's a delicate balancing act, but some of these construction workers will sit in their cars and leave their cars running for like ever. And it's not good for the
do that either.
Yeah, and it's constant. It's all the time. It's every day. Okay. So I just wanted to see, again, if they have special permission, then I have nothing to say about that.
So Kev actually has a commitment to reduce carbon emissions, and that their vehicles are monitored for how long they're idled. So Di, what I'm going to have you do is send a reminder to the Kev's group to put out they have what they call a toolbox talk. And so The unfortunate thing with a project this size that
Yeah.
spans this long is turnover. The construction industry has a lot of it right now. I have seen it being a project manager in road and highway design. A lot of people retired during COVID, which opened up a bunch of spots. People my age started to move. We got new people coming in, and there's so much construction that trying to keep people that aren't getting paid by companies to come see them because we're paying more has been very difficult. So when you get new people on the job, they haven't heard things that we told them even just a month ago because they only started today. So it's a little bit of a whack-a-mole, but that's
Yeah.
why we have that email. And again, I know we shouldn't have to rely on you, but honestly, to get any kind of real enforcement of a photo with identifications, verbally a timestamp, is very helpful for
Okay.
us, because then we can nail down specific individuals.
Oh, some cars, I went to run an errand and I walked and I was gone for over an hour and that car was still running. And the person in it, and I could see they had construction clothes on, was still running for an hour.
Yep. So again,
Okay,
that's what I can help you with, is that as soon as I have that information, I can chase it that way. On the bylaw side, I'm going to be very careful with always suggesting that, because as much as they will get the offenders from the construction crews, they may also get yourself, your neighbors, and your friends that are visiting. Yeah, so the rules, just so everybody's clear, a car can be parked on a side street that's unsigned for 3 hours. Otherwise, they have to move, I think it's at least 300 meters away, unless otherwise posted. If there's a sign that says 1 hour, 2 hour, 30 minutes, then you have to deal with what the sign says. Unless you have an accessible parking, that kind of changes the whole rules of where you can park. I think they can even park in no stopping park. But again, so it's a fine line between getting the bad guys, but also getting your neighbors at the same time too. So.
Okay, there's lots of other people here that maybe have a comment that they would want to make.
An additional query has come in.
Yes.
It's already been raised, but my biggest concern is accessing the parkway from Wood Park via Woodroffe. It's not clear if that's allowed. Blocking it off for 3 years is a very long time to block it off and divert us through longer routes through other areas. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, so we will take that comment back. I know I kind of put it to my traffic team the other day, saying like, if we're allowing people to go, why try to distinguish it? Because so part of the problem is the signage out there is regulatory and it's very like local access only. It's kind of very vague, who's local, who's not local. So I kind of said, what's the point? I know at one point they had a road closed sign that wasn't supposed to be there, and I don't know why it showed up. We got rid of that. So I will take this feedback back to my team, and we'll see what we can do.
Good.
Thank you for that. Okay, any other pressing concerns or comments that you'd like Rosanna, I, or Teresa to hear?
I just want to put in a plug. We have our mural painting coming up at the intersection of Flower and Ancaster soon. We are still looking for some volunteers. It's going to be a beautiful mural, and thank you again, Teresa, for getting it repaid for us. It's going to be a great canvas. So keep an eye out on our Facebook group and our website.
What's the date that you're looking for people for mural painting?
August 24th.
Is there a specific time?
It'll be going painting usually from 10 a.m. till about 4 p.m., but we start prep work at 8 o'clock.
There's also an art crawl going on at the same time. So you can walk through the neighborhood and see original art. And that's been organized by Andrea Ward, who works for the city, but lives in the neighborhood and organized all that. So yeah, kind of fun.
Just one hesitation is that we still haven't got our insurance, so we can't get our permit.
Yeah, there may
We
need
may end up canceling.
There may need to be some conversations with you, Councillor Kavanagh and Barbara, perhaps, to see if we can fix that issue, because I think we're close to the end of the road on that.
But I also want to thank everyone for attending. we're doing as best we can to keep our community informed. And, you know, if you have ideas, you can always email us at woodpark@woodpark.ca.
And if I
Okay,
can-
so maybe
If I
just
could
to
just give a shout out, sorry, Sue, if you don't mind.
go ahead and I'll wrap it up after.
Okay, I just want to say thank you to staff members that are here today. Sheila Vasnek, she's the one who's been doing the intake on the phone calls. Thank you, Sheila, for coming out tonight. And Barbara Greenberg as well, who does the traffic files. And thank you both. And you probably know Georgie's no longer with us in the sense that she's moved on to another job. I mean, in that sense, she's got a great job. She's going to be working for the clerk of the city. They grabbed her, and we're going to have a new staff person starting in September, and you'll get to meet her. But I'm hoping she may be at the art crawl, because I'll have a booth there. I'll have a booth out on Flower Street. But thanks, everybody. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that the team was here, and we're listening. We're the ones that are the air traffic controllers, sending things all over the place, and a good chunk of it goes to stage 2. And we're always confident when we send things to stage 2, because we know they take everything seriously and they have a good look at it, and we really appreciate their work. So thank you, everyone, and I'll see you on the 24th, if not before.
Okay, so just one last thing, and then we'll turn this off. Rosanna, you're going to have your visit tomorrow. I don't know if there's a way you can kind of feedback on some of these questions, and I think maybe some of them have been put in through the stage 2, but maybe you could just kind of tell us a little bit about this, whether you can access the parkway or kind of how that's all kind of playing out. Maybe you could send it to David and myself, and we could distribute to the people here and the broader community.
Yeah,
And
so
let
what my site visit tomorrow will be gathering the photos so that when I communicate with my team, they see what I see, and so what I can understand is the exact setup. And then again, issuing the marching orders or having the discussion. There, again, as much as I want to put everything the way we want them, sometimes there is going to be a no, for whatever reason. But if there is a no, I will provide a justification as to why.
That's great. That's all we can ask for. So I want to thank everyone for participating tonight, either making comments, providing the presentations, or just simply listening in and being a good Wood Park citizens. And we might have had a resident from another nearby neighborhood as well, and that's all good. So anyhow, thanks everybody, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.